Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll make a custom stencil. Through the years I've made a ton of stencils using a whole bunch of different materials, from plastics to woods to metals. In this case here, it's plastic. And there's a couple of things I want you to be careful about when you make QR code designs and send them through for us to make them for you. Number one is generally QR codes have 3 or 4 squares in them, like large ones in the corners. It's so that the camera has a reference to actually the scale and the location of the overall QR code. Now, something you have to keep in mind always is these squares always have inner squares. And if you don't add the little supports like this here, this whole part just becomes a block that's gone. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is with the outline of the QR code, you want to make sure you have little supports in the corners. And again, for the same reason, you don't want the whole stencil to just fall out. Now, I also add a lot of internal supports. Generally, they're about an 1/8 inch diameter, or depends on the QR code, diameter or width or length. Sometimes they're a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. Depends on the material, depends on quantity, depends on a lot of different variables. But something you want to keep in mind is that they serve 2 purposes. One, they stop the parts from falling out, of course. But more importantly, you actually give a lot of rigidity to the stencil. Because the last thing you want to do is have a stencil that you have trouble laying flat on something because you have parts flopping everywhere. And that's where having support material makes a big difference. When it comes to QR stencils, you can have any sort of mix of images and graphics. But you always have to remember this is a stencil, so you still need to support inner materials so they don't fall out when you actually do your stenciling. Now, if it's a one-time thing, we can actually do multi-layered stencils, and that allows you to switch different parts of the stencil. So let's say, for instance, you want to stencil a specific QR code, but with all the same branding all the way around it. We can actually make inserts for you. So you put the stencil first, and then you put the other stencil on top of it or next to it or wherever you want, and they sort of interlock with each other, and you could go ahead and work that way. We've done that for a couple of wineries where they have different kinds of wines on their barrels, and that works really, really well for them. Now, of course, this can be applied to QR stencils, QR codes can be applied to any sort of graphics or text inside of it as well. So we can make however you want your stencil to be and to function, we can make it just for you. And that's the advantage that we offer our customers. Not just material, but also a very wide array of processes to make what they need. Now, when it comes to making a custom QR code, basically all QR codes work well, but something you want to keep in mind is you want the QR code to be as, I don't know the proper word, generic or large enough as you can. I find QR codes with a lot of fine little details just don't come out very well when it comes to actually using them. You want large details because it's a large stencil, or of course, if you have a stencil with very small details, make the stencil that much bigger so that those details are larger. Of course, it makes things easier for people to notice, take pictures of, and so forth. So there's no point doing it like a little stencil like this here. It just doesn't pick up well with the camera. So if you're looking for custom QR code stencils, contact us at CNCKing.com. We'll make them for you and ship them right to your door.